If you want revenge for the bad things that have happened in your life, start with the version of you that hasn't lived up to your potential.
You have no fucking idea how great you really are.
Because maybe I'm not good enough.
Your story may not have such a happy beginning.
It's not okay for you to be a weak loser.
But that doesn't make you who you are.
And the reason it's not okay is because you could be way more than that.
This life is not here to make you suffer.
Because you are using such minimal of what you have.
This life is here to make you understand what is your potential.
They say that true hell is when the person that you are meets the person you could have been.
It is the rest of your story, who you choose to be.
My philosophy is, why be normal when you can be the best?
And I learned the greatest gift of all. The saddest thing in life is wasted talent.
Play full f***ing out.
If you're going to try, go all the way.
You're not as far away from these dreams as you think you are.
Is that so many people die with untapped potential because they think that someone else is fucking better than them.
All life forms strive to the max of its potential except human beings.
If you only do what you can do, you will never be more than you are now.
You got the makings of greatness in you, but you gotta take the helm and chart your own course.
We can be anyone. We can do anything. It's only a matter of going.
I forget one time I was running by a graveyard, and I ran by a graveyard, and I looked out there, and I have all these epiphanies, man. I have all these moments of it's crazy, man, of just thought. Cause I'm always by myself, and I'm always in deep fucking thought about how to be better. And I look out there, I'm like, man, I wonder how many of you motherfuckers in there and just are so upset with how you lived your life, regret how you lived it. And I'm running at 300-pound man thinking, man, don't fucking die like this, bro.
You know, there's one place that all the people with the greatest potential are gathered. One place. And that's the graveyard.
Everyone has the possibility to unlock something very, very special about him or herself. And it's up to your actions. Ultimately, it's you yourself who also is able to unlock it.
If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way.
Most of us don't use the stuff that we have brought into the universe. And we want to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to start living life with a sense of urgency and using what we've got. Using ourselves up. Sharing what we brought into the universe to share. Because if we don't, nobody else will. Stop wasting valuable time. Knowing that if we begin to live our lives as if each day were our last, our lives will take on a whole new meaning. Take on a whole new expression.
Like I'm 54 years old right now. Like that. I mean, it just flew by. You think when you're young that you have all this time. You have no time.
And the other thing that's so interesting about being alive is that you're all in. No matter what you do, you're all in. This is gonna kill you. So I think you might as well play the most magnificent game you can while you're waiting, because do you have anything better to do? Really? Why not pick the best thing possible that you could do?
You know, I don't have it, I can't do it. Our natural tendency is to sell ourselves short. Our natural tendency is to think of the reasons why we can't before we think of the reasons why we can. So the key to breaking ourselves out of the comfort zone and breaking ourselves loose of the shackle of helplessness is courage and confidence. We neutralize the antidote to fear and ignorance is desire and knowledge. And the more we learn about what we want to do and be and have, the more we believe that we can do it. The more we believe that we can do it, the more willing we are to try. And the more willing we are to try, the more likely it is we will succeed. What is the first part of triumph? The first part of triumph is to try.
It'll take time. It'll be a process. And sometimes you will have to convince yourself, right, that it's possible. And if you don't know how to change the way that you think, begin to digest new information and find those people that empower you. Find those people that elevate your spirit and your soul, and understand that your potential, my friend, is limitless. You, my friend, are limitless, but you must believe. And if you can believe, all things are possible.
That the reason that you are doing this alone is because you are on the path to greatness. You are on the path to achieving and obtaining everything that you've ever desired. It's going to feel so good at the end.
Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, or how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it, despite rejection and the worst odds, and it will be better than anything you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There's no other feeling like that. You'll be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it. All the way. All the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is.
A lot of people are afraid to even try hard, because then if you try hard and you fail, you feel like a failure. The aspect of being a failure doesn't come from the success in the end. It comes from if you really quit on yourself, or if you don't put in the effort you know you can put in, and you're kind of holding back on your true potential. The unfulfilled potential is the story of most people's lives.
If you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, and if they can't stop you, then you become something else entirely. Legend, a story.
Far too many people abandon their path, and it's because they forget their why they chose this journey in the first place. Please don't let that be you.
And give a man a purpose and the ability to achieve it, and he will crawl over broken glass with a smile.
If you're cool with that, man, if you're cool with walking in the shadows of yourself, and the only person you got is the man right there in the shadow, man, how you doing? Pretty good, how you doing? All right, man, cool. If you're cool with that kind of walk of life, I'll tell you, man, the world is your playground.
I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. You always want to outwork your potential. As hard as you believe you can work harder than that.
You have so much potential. You have a gift. And the purpose that you were put here to fulfill, people out there, real people, are depending on. You will share many great memories. You will be confident and proud of the person that you've become. That's what this is for. That's what's on the line here. And that's what's waiting for you on the other side, my friend.
As you go through the challenges of life, and you look at it and embrace whatever comes to you, don't run from it. Step toward it. Don't try and duck it like most people do. See, most people want it easy. See, easy come, easy what? Easy go.
So that if there is no value proposition at hand, then you have no meaning to justify the difficult conditions of your life. And that's brutally difficult for people.
Turning a want into a crushing need is one of the most useful processes that you can master.
Defeat and failure is the greatest thing that could ever happen. Because when you're successful, you tend to not learn anything. Failure teaches you your limits. It makes you realize what you did wrong. It shows you what you could do differently.
Our life right now is the sum total of all the decisions we've made up to this point. If you forgot half of what you know, half of your expertise, half of the conversations you've had, half of the people you know, half of the words you know, how effective would you be? You wouldn't be. But what if you could retain twice as much, maybe in a fraction of the time? How much more effective would you be?
Don't worry about whether this is hard or it's taking a very long time. Just invest in yourself every day, unabashedly, going after it.
See, most people engage in low-life living, low-risk living. This God said if you're not willing to risk, you cannot grow. And if you cannot grow, you cannot become your best. And if you cannot become your best, you can't be happy.
Understand, pain is a very powerful motivating factor. So understand that life is very difficult and that you're down a path towards something really, really bad unless you get your act together and try that first thing. Take that first step. Do whatever it is that you thought you couldn't do, and don't be afraid, because that is the most important moment in your life.
If you constantly remind yourself, after every defeat, after every setback, every time you get knocked out, you will feel your way to success.
And so if your life isn't everything it could be, you could ask yourself, well, what would happen if you just stopped wasting the opportunities that are in front of you?
You have a viewpoint, a perspective. It's like the lens on a camera. And it's through that lens that you view the world and you view people and you view events. And so your attitude, how you look at the world, will determine what you get in life.
The big thing, and this is why I always tell people, there need to be two things true about the goals you're trying to accomplish. One, they need to be honorable, and two, they need to be exciting. I legitimately am excited about the thing that I'm trying to build. And because I value myself for the sincere pursuit of this thing that is both exciting to me and honorable, and that it's, going to lift people up if I actually accomplish it, and I'm holding myself accountable to actual results, but the game of trying to turn my potential into usable skills that can do something tangible in the world to make that goal that's exciting and honorable come true, because all of that game is predicated on making sure that I love the time in the field, that I'm leaving everything out on the field. I value myself for that. I don't value myself for accomplishing it, but I value myself for actually trying to pursue it.
If you're focusing on this person didn't give me that thing, my parents didn't give me that thing, that's you creating your attitude. You're building it. It's like a crystallization process. This crystal starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger as each new crystal is added, and you crystallize this negative, defensive attitude towards life, and that's what you're going to get.
You will go through things, and while you're going through them, you can't understand why it's happening to you. But after you go through it, you get back and you look at it and you say, oh, now I understand why I needed that lesson.
You can take these tentative steps on your pathway to destiny, and you can assume that you're going to do it badly. And that's really useful because you don't have to beat yourself up. It's pretty easy to do it badly. But the thing is, it's way better to do it badly than not to do it at all.
And I'm saying to you, whatever you got to do it, because if you don't, life is going to whoop you until you surrender.
The only thing that I think people should fear is standing still. So I've often said that running 1,000 miles an hour in the wrong direction is better than standing still.
The obstacle is the way. If you have that attitude where obstacles are actually the path forward, nothing's going to stop you.
For now, what you want to focus on is you're hopelessly average. Amazing. And now it's about recognizing that the average human being is designed to learn and grow and to get better. And so now it's a question of how do we put enough time and energy into something to actually get better at that thing.
If you think that action is the end-all be-all, you end up doing action for the sake of doing action, right? So I feel like I should always be doing and doing and doing, but sometimes you're just supposed to be. And oftentimes just sort of being there and sitting there and being still is where really great insights come from. And this is also where happiness comes from. You know, it's hard to be happy and appreciate and feel gratitude when you're just moving all the time.
It's all mental, and people don't get it. And everybody wants to say, okay, well, here go 10 steps to, okay, Lewis said do 8, E.T. said do 9, you know, this person says this is 12 steps, and everybody's trying to get the steps without the mentality. It's like, okay, maybe you don't need all 9, or maybe you don't need all 8, maybe you need 4, maybe you need 12, I don't know. But I think sometimes they see what we do and say, if I can duplicate that, it's like exactly how he's done in the book, exactly how, and it's like, yo, you have a story. You know, you have a unique experience, and so your 12 are shaped by not just your world, but how your world has shaped your thinking.
The very first step is you have to become aware of your current thinking. Most people don't realize that their thoughts are in the toilet, that they're listening and to themselves say negative things about 70,000 times a day. There are things like, I'm not good enough, it's not going to work out, this stuff works for other people. Works for the people in the secret, but it doesn't work for me. They want to do things, but they think you know, the economy's wrong, the president's wrong, the timing is wrong, I don't have enough education, I don't have enough experience. All of these kinds of negative thoughts keep people shut down.
What does like an ideal day of your life look like? Like maybe not right now, but like what do you want a day in your life to look like? Some people it's like, my dream life is being on a beach in Bali. Well, what does that actually cost? Could you have that now? Do you have to have a life that you don't like so that at the end of it, potentially you're lucky enough to go there? Or could you find a way to get that now? I think about this on a regular basis. Is my life resembling what those days are supposed to look like? And if I have too many days in a row that don't resemble what I want my day to look like, I go, I'm having the opposite of success.
They don't go for their dreams. They react to life, they kind of crawl through life with no enthusiasm, no sort of energy, and no belief in themselves or the possibilities of something better. What the law of attraction is teaching people is that you have a choice. You can change your thinking. These thoughts that we're having them. We're not them. If we can detach enough to go, oh, here comes that I'm not good enough thought again, and let it go by, we are one step removed from it.
It's not, if you really want something bad enough, it's not going to be easy. And you can see where you want to go, but there are so many things you're going to have to go through to get there. But truly, if you focus and know where you want to end up, you'll be there. It may not be at the exact time you want, which now is kind of immediate for most people, but you'll eventually get there at your time when you're supposed to.
We're constantly creating stories. Most of the time, these stories are not facts. They're facts within our own consciousness. We believe they're facts, but the truth of the matter is that they aren't. Most of it is a lowercase t and not a capital T.
You don't want to hit rock bottom, but you have to create your own mental rock bottom so that you don't hit rock bottom. It's not the money, the network. It's not, you know, the vision board. It's, I believe, for those of us who are where we are, it's something within, you know, and you can't go buy that. You know, I can't give it to you. Lewis can't. Like, you got to go within and find that and pull that stuff out.
You're not trying to get to perfection right now. You're just trying to get a little bit better than you were yesterday or an hour ago.
You know, you make choices in your life.
You program your mind to either be happy or not. That's a choice that you make. It's not something that somebody else makes for you. It's not even your situation. No matter what the situation, you truly do make the choice to be happy in that situation or not.
When you fake being someone for so long, you think it's your reality. And that's what happens to all of us. We play a role at work, we play a role at home, we play a role with our family, we play a role with our friends, and then we think that role is us. And we lose ourselves. And to me, that is the core reason why we're chasing things that are not important to us. We're unhappy despite reaching accolades, and we feel dissatisfied.
If I just keep giving, if I just keep focusing out, which is a beautiful thing, if the context of it is actually service and not, wanting to be approved of. If I keep giving to everybody else, then I'll finally be good enough. If I do all of these things, if I go to school and I get good grades, and I get good grades so I can get into a good college, and I do the whole thing so I can finally be good enough. It's this contingency plan that I found has been what you would call the American nightmare.
There's something that happens when we allow ourselves to sit inside freedom, sit inside transparency, sit inside what I like to call carefrontation. That means I might push up against you a little bit. I might make you mildly to moderately to significantly uncomfortable in any form of mediocrity. But it's out of the spirit of love. You want to inspire people with your voice, from your child to your sibling to your significant other to your community to the world to this room. Be willing to love me enough to tell me your truth, then love me enough to tell me my truth, then love me enough to just tell me the truth.
I think we doubt ourselves more than anybody else ever doubts us. So, and I fight that too. I fight that every day. I think the routines that I have, my routines are very simple. I find out what the job is, and I bust my ass to get it done.
If you lose, cry for a day. And if you celebrate, if you win, celebrate for a day. And what we do is when we lose, we cry for a month. And when we win, we just move on, which means that our negative experiences hold us back and weigh us down more than our positive experiences. So we're actually allowing, because we don't immerse ourselves in winning and growth, we only submerge ourselves in negative experiences.
And this is where things like affirmations, positive thinking, positive statements, instead of saying I'm not good enough, begin to say I am good enough. Begin to say this can work out for me. If this material has worked for other people, why can't it work for me too? I'm human, they're human, and you can start to rebuild your software of the mind, if you will. And these are all elements. And then there's, we can get into details like what you're going to tend to bring into your life, the things that you think about a lot. Most people think about the things they're afraid of, the things that they're worried about. I tell people, why don't you start thinking about the things you love, the things you're passionate about. You're going to go in a new direction. You'll be happier, you'll be healthier, you're going to have better momentum, better enthusiasm.
We're attempting to remind people of is that the beauty is in the dance, it's in the hits. A lot of people want to avoid the hits. We want to avoid any pain and maximize all the pleasure and just avoid the pain. And for me, this is how I have become me. But the reality is, in the forest of the unknown, in the testing realm is what we call it. In the testing realm, this is where all of the magic happens. That you're never going to land. There's never going to be a time where you're like, yep, I'm done. Within 5 years of someone retiring, that they usually die. Because once you don't feel like you have a purpose, what else is there?
A lot of us are being forced into solitude right now, in our homes, apartments, wherever we live. But we're also being forced into solitude in our own minds. Life is the most brutal endurance sport of all time. And that's what we have to love about it. We have to flip it on its head and love the fact that life continues to attack us. There are no timeouts. You have to be that person who's always prepared. But the solitude right now that all of us are dealing with is what we don't want to deal with. It's the fact that we have to think about all these things that we don't like about ourselves. We like to use life as a big escape. That escape is not there anymore. All these distractions that we use, they're no longer there. Stop looking at me or other people out here to be the hero of your story. Knowing one thing in life, we are all very fragile in this world. We have to know that when we die with some meaning and some purpose in this world.
What do I think of people that say, find your passion? I will say they mean very well, but they don't understand what passion actually is. So I think because a rare breed of individual develops a passion when they're young, they then mistake it for, I found my passion, but that's not really true.
Every day you just get up and I don't fear anything, but I worry about everything. And the day you stop worrying in good times, the paddle will get you behind. And so as great as things are in life, I know you're only a few steps or a few incidents away from something bad happening. You can never forget it.
The real ballast for you emotionally and ethically is that you want other people to be happy. You want them to have beautiful lives. You want them to realize their dreams. You realize that there's the sense that there's a zero-sum contest between your well-being or your happiness and others. It's not transactional. You realize that that is actually a state of being. That's the way that could be the default state of your own consciousness if you could only locate it.
To see these negative thoughts, objectifying them and calling them demons, because then we no longer have to own them. It's very different to try to will yourself against yourself, because a lot of times that's what it is. It's like you're fighting against yourself. But if you recognize that these thoughts come from without, that they don't belong to you, right? You can project your energy out at the entity that keeps knocking at your door.
It was just a God-given gift. But also remember, I didn't get a lot of those other gifts. Don't ask me to play that guitar. Don't ask me to sing you a song. And don't ask me to draw you anything. But you've got to know your God-given gifts. And everybody has it. Everybody in this room has it right here. So do what you know was your God-given gift.
Now, the pursuit of mastery, when you realize that you can not only do something for yourself, but you can influence the world, that becomes the real passion, because you're developing a set of skills that means something to you, and it allows you to do something in the world that other people cannot do.
Time out now for you to stop avoiding things. Get that pen and paper out. Look inside yourself.
If you're just serving yourself, I don't think it will ever be quite the optimistic, uplifting, self-continuing thing that it could otherwise be.
Most of humanity, even at this moment, doesn't have the free attention to really think seriously about what it means to be happy. You know, it's just, I mean, when you just look at the economic imperatives of, you know, most people in most situations, it's not about really having the free attention to do whatever you want or what you would think at the end of the day would be most satisfying.
I think people can feel very out of control, and I mean there's something jarring about learning that everything, the things that feel most true to you about reality are possibly not structured that way.
So when you're serving other people and you're doing something that uplifts other people, but with a skill set that you had to work your ass off to get, and it's a skill set that you love and you love the acquisition of that skill set, then there's a light airiness to it that feels uplifting. And if you can get in that loop, then you're good.
You're lost in thought almost every moment of your life, and much of your thinking has this mediocre character of causing you to worry about the future and regret the past and just feel a baseline dis-ease with life.
They're just the little bitty things. And I just think that it's easy to separate yourself from anybody else, no matter what your position is. If you go to work for a company and you don't go up the corporate ladder, it's your fault. Nothing goes unnoticed, okay? And I tell people that all the time. If you want to separate yourself, it's easy to do because somebody above you is going to notice it. Your peers are going to notice it. It is easy to separate yourself from anybody else.
Life is going to be a grand struggle until you understand that you are a chemical processing plant. And once you understand how to take control of the chemical processing, and then you can do virtually anything you want. You can create desire, you can stay focused, you can improve, but you really do have to put yourself in a position to adapt or die. Your body has to believe. Those are my two options, adapt or die. And then it really will adapt.
Is to get into a position where thoughts are like thieves entering an empty house. So there's just no possible problem. So to truly be indifferent to between a good thought and a bad thought, that's the real superpower.
No one will act for the many, but people will act for the one. So basically, stop thinking about solving the world's problems. Find somebody you know and love that has that problem and solve it for them.
Times, get good. And it goes back to what I once again preach. When times are really bad, we forget they're ever going to be good again. And when times are really good, we forget they're going to be bad again. And we need to always remember that so the paddle doesn't get you. I had a really good friend of mine, I went to lunch and he said, I don't know who this guy is here in front of me. And he goes, let me ask you a question, honestly. Right now, what are you grateful for? And at the lunch I said, jack shit, nothing, brother. There's nothing good in my life right now. And I'm not exaggerating this to you when I tell you this, and this is a factual story. As I'm mouthing these words, two people walked in with an older man. Both of them clearly were fighting cancer somehow. Both had lost their hair. One of the ladies had a bonnet on, and they were barely moving in. Both walked by our table and gave me the most warm greeting, the warmest smile as a stranger. And he goes, that's pretty freaking pathetic. You can't find anything in your life to be grateful for right now? And on the drive home, I'm not kidding you, I started to stack gratitude. I started to take inventory. Because if you can find things to be grateful for in that space, man, is your life going to be rich when there really are external things to be grateful for. So my first mechanism out of that space was honestly to stack the things I was grateful for, and I started reinforcing it over and over and over again. And what happens is there's this reticular activating system in our brains, right? And all of a sudden, because that's the messaging I was giving myself, all of a sudden, all these things start to come into my awareness that I'm grateful for. I start to magnetize to myself some people that I needed to find into my life, and that was the next layer. I started to see things to be grateful for. My health, my fitness, people who loved me. And what it did is it changed my state. When I stacked gratitude, I changed what I did in the morning, and I changed what I did in the evening. And so somehow by grabbing control of my morning and by grabbing control of my evening, I got some measure of control over the middle of my day. I was an out of control person back in those days, meaning this. I woke up worried, stressed, fearful, and I immediately start thinking about a bill I had to pay, something that was wrong. And I'm in a state of reaction to begin I'm talking within 6 minutes of waking up, 6 seconds. Most people listening to this, that's what they do. I said, I gotta grab control of my morning, and I set up routines in my morning. Maybe they served me, maybe they didn't, but they were things I could deliver on doing for myself. That which you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate. And I think that identifies most people's lives. In other words, average becomes sort of like this slow asphyxiation. It's almost like an anesthetic. and that over time we become kind of immune and dulled to the average that we're becoming. I know this is true, at least for me. You probably experience it yourself too. And so over time, we sort of minimize where we're at. In other words, I'm a little pudgy instead of being, no, you're a fat ass, right? You don't magnify the degree to which the pain ought to be affecting you. And so really what he means in that is, listen, you're gonna get out of your life what you'll accept. That's really difficult for people, I think, to understand is, look, what you think you're worth and what you're gonna tolerate is absolutely what you're gonna bring into your life and what the outward part of your life's gonna look like. And so I live by that. Like, I let myself sort of feel the pain and the difficulty of being not where I wanna be in whatever that area is, whether it's my spirituality, my relationships, my money. I let myself feel that pain because, as you know, there's two motivators, right? There's the gaining of pleasure, right? Wanting to go get something, chasing the dream, but then there's the avoidance of pain. And for a lot of champions, that's a pretty big driving force for them. And so at least for me, I leverage both of those things on me to get myself to take action. So this thing people think that, like, I'll be happy when? Once I get like this big, amazing home, or once I get this car, or once I get this relationship or an amount of money, then I'll allow myself some happiness. The problem is the finish line always moves. You never arrive there, right? The other part is people think, well, if I enjoy myself now, I'm gonna lose my drive. In other words, if I can just wire myself with enough pain all the time, I won't lose my drive or ambition. The truth is, there's no correlation between the two at all. There's no relationship between you feeling complete pain all the time and losing drive. And so I talk about living in a state of blissful dissatisfaction. And really, the best example of that would be like if you've ever, I love a good meal, right? You know, if I bite into a great piece of steak, if you're a steak eater like I am, you take that first bite, it's like complete bliss, right? There's no correlation between how great that tasted and your lack of desire for the next bite. In fact, that bliss causes you to want more of it. And so the more we can begin to reward ourselves with bliss, we're not gonna lose our dissatisfaction. We're not gonna lose that. And so for me, our brains, this dopamine hit you get when you do something successful, if you constantly cheat yourself out of that hit, right, biomechanically in your body, less and less in the future will you want to achieve the next level, the next dream, the next step. And that's why so many people stall out in life. They got to a certain point and they cheated themselves out of the bliss, out of the celebration. It's important that we celebrate our wins. We celebrate our lives because it causes us to want the next bite. It keeps us hungrier, not the reverse. And so for me, I want to live in a state of being grateful and blissful now, not waiting for some future place or date that may never arise. Self-confidence is really self-trust. So the first thing is, the people I know that are really happy are very self-aware. In fact, the best entrepreneurs I know are very self-aware. They're aware of their shortcomings, right? They want to improve them. They want to get to the next version of themselves all the time. And so for me, self-confidence comes because I didn't have it. And I think anytime you meet somebody like yourself or myself who might now appear self-confident, it's because I really had to find tools and resources because I was so insecure and shy and introverted. So I had to find techniques and resources to build that up in me. And for me, it's very simple. It's the promises that I keep to myself. If I have a habit over and over of beginning to stack one on top of the other of keeping promises I make to me, not other people. In other words, the minute you begin to get external in your life, worrying about what other people think about you, right? You've lost all control. And it never fills you up. And people's admiration, people's gratitude towards you will never fill you up. It's your own. It's your own inside. And so for me, self-confidence comes from keeping the promises I make to myself. And the other part of it is being aware I'm doing it. In other words, most people don't give themselves enough credit all the time. They're very aware of these 20% things and not aware of the 80, right? And that's why the dosage is so important too. You've nailed it. It should be 80-20, right? Because people get addicted to this. I'm not good at this. People don't like this about me. I don't feel good. Instead of focusing on the 80 and stacking up, wow, I did eat what I said I was going to today. I did get up when I said I was going to. I made the amount of phone calls. I treated people in such a way I promised myself. It's not just doing those things. It's rewarding it. It's being aware of it and stacking that up. When I work with athletes, the successful athletes I work with, when they're in a slump, it's never that they can't hit a ball anymore or make a shot or swing a golf club. They've lost their self-confidence. Somewhere along the way, they've lost the ability to focus on the things they are great at and stacking those promises they make to themselves. And the way I get them to break their slump is not correcting their swing or getting them positive. It's getting them to acknowledge the small promises, showing up to batting practice early, hitting that extra bucket of balls, beginning to reward themselves for the extra promises they keep to themselves, puts them back in a state of self-confidence. All of a sudden, they're hitting the ball great again.
If we have a setback or a failure in life, which is inevitable, do we analyze ourselves and see what we did wrong? Or do we immediately outward and blame other people?
Nobody knows but you. You can't get advice on what you should do with your life, right? Nobody knows what you are. It's like, as much as you want people to agree and you want the people around you to be supporting your dreams and all, it's not gonna be like that all the time. You gotta do it alone.
Your number one move is you identifying who you want to be. Who do you want to be? If you and I can figure out who we want to be, and it's as transparent and as clear as possible, I don't have to compare myself against your success.
I think that people have to learn to bring the joy. And that says, you don't have joy, just like I don't think people have happiness, I don't think people have sadness either. I think that we are generating the emotions and the feelings that we experience in life. And as soon as we own that responsibility, life gets really fun.
Following your dreams is a lonely, solitary, scary, dangerous pursuit. You can't wait for somebody to think you can do it. You don't believe, nobody else is going to believe. People come along because your belief is so insane.
Let somebody else tell you what you cannot do. But in the process of that, prepare for success. In other words, are you willing to put time in your next move? And a lot of people say things like, I'm not a morning person. I don't really know what that is. I really don't. I have 24 hours in a day. I try to take advantage of every hour. And I have certain rules that I initially tell people on a regular basis. If you want to start living a successful life, start locking into a consistent time that you should get up every day.
If you want to compete in the top 1% of 1% of 1% of 1%, the price is a bigger price. There isn't a formula for it. You just have to figure out a way how to do it.
Is that we have to determine the feeling that we are after and live into that feeling, not hope it lands on us. And that's when someone starts getting real mastery in life.
It's a lonely, scary, dangerous pursuit, and you got to be willing to risk everything to become that seed of what you believe is in there. But people who are running toward their dreams, life has a special kind of meaning. And here's what I will share with you, that in the process of working on your dreams, you are going to incur a lot of disappointment, a lot of failure, a lot of pain, a lot of setbacks, a lot of defeats.
If you're about to make a change in your life and you feel uncomfortable, that's the best feeling you can have. Because for the first time in your life, you're making a decision that's going to be best for you.
Make a choice, right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide.
We're watching the same world, the same reality, but we experience it differently. Everybody you meet is experiencing their world differently than you are. So you have an attitude that colors what you see. And some people have an attitude that tends towards the negative. And I describe a negative attitude as something that's closed. So you're not open to new experience. You're trying to close that lens. You have certain beliefs, certain ideas about life, and you're not willing to change them, right? Because that gives you a sense of security.
There is a moment in which you are serving people, or you're trying to achieve your goal or your dream, in which now it is not a preference, it's a must. It becomes necessary for us to excel in this. Like, it's not a hope anymore, it's not I should do it. It becomes so necessary that it connects with our identity, that we feel it is necessary for me to deliver with excellence here because that is who I am. It's necessary for me to deliver with excellence here because somebody needs me to do well. It's necessary for me to do well here because this topic, this thing I'm doing, I'm passionate about this, I care about this, I want to master this. I'm obsessed.
If I'm aligned with my values and principles and my goals and dreams,
and those two are aligned, I'm the most fulfilled, happiest person alive. It's when you're unaligned, when you are miserable. It's courage, wisdom, tolerance, understanding. So courage, because if you're ever going to be doing something big, you're going to face enemies that you are going to be afraid. You're going to have courage. Once you have your values and principles and they're aligned with the way you live, you're good. If you don't, panic, anxiety, depression, regret, misery. My biggest thing when it comes down to greatness is alignment. Who do you want to be? Once you're aligned with who you want to be in the life you want to live, you start enjoying this thing.
You're different. You have something very unique about you. That uniqueness exists for a purpose. If you follow that, if you use your uniqueness in some way, you will create something pretty great.
When you're passionate, everybody cheers you on. They're stoked for you. When you're obsessed, they're like, why are you gonna be so crazy? Why can't you be satisfied? Why do you always gotta get things so perfect? Why do you spend so much time? When you're obsessed, people think you're nuts. So it's different. And it's like, I always tell people, if no one thinks you're crazy, you're not yet operating to the outlet of its limitation.
You shoot for perfection, it's all good. You don't shoot for average, because you're not gonna hit all the time. If you shoot for perfection and you hit good or great, then you win. Don't ever shoot for average. I just try to get people to understand, don't be average. Please don't put a limit on what you can do when you haven't even tried to do what you're capable of doing. Biggest key to success, almost anybody I see that takes it to a whole different level, the highest levels, the difference between them and other people is their sequencing. If my order of steps I take to go here isn't as efficient as yours because your sequencing is better, you're going to get there faster than I am, and I may never even get there.
The journey to greatness begins the moment that our deep desires for comfort and ease are overpowered by our desires to connect and dream.
Who you are, your uniqueness is your source of power. The further you deviate from that uniqueness, the weaker you will become. So the game in life is to know who you are, to gather skills and train yourself and be disciplined. Take all the things that you've learned and create something unique.
People that are living their dreams are the people that know that if it's going to happen, it's up to them. And they're resolving within themselves, it's not over until I win.
About 2 years ago, we were having a conversation and he said, you know, you teach the secret to life is peak state versus lousy state, or being energy rich versus energy poor, that a relationship, you can love somebody, but if the energy's low, it's not gonna show up, the energy's high. Well, he said, what if you swap those words and you swap peak state for beautiful state? I said, that works, you know, a high energy state is a beautiful state. Any state where your high energy would be like love or joy or gratitude or drive or courage or faith or, you know, playfulness or fun, any of those things are beautiful states. So he goes, yeah, I agree. And I said, and then suffering states would be low energy states. So that would be frustration, sadness, anger, resentment, loneliness, boredom, whatever. He goes, yeah, that's exactly right. I said, I can swap those. He goes, if you swap them, there's something cool that you might see or do. I said, what's that? And he said, well, he said, I've made a decision that I'm gonna live my life where I'm gonna live in a beautiful state every day, no matter what, even if it rains on my parade, even if people do things that are unjust. He said the reason is because in a beautiful state, just like you teach a peak state, everything flows. And I said, well, that's pretty much what I've been teaching. He goes, yes, but if you think of the lousy states as suffering states, he said, then you can end suffering just by ending the state. But I realized I didn't relate to suffering. Like if you had told me 2 years ago, Tony, do you suffer? I'd say, are you kidding me? I got the greatest life. I have the most incredible wife and 4 kids, and I got 31 companies, and I'm financially free, and I have a mission I love, and I'm in good health. And that would all be honest. I wouldn't have been dishonest about it. But what really helped me out of that conversation, I left there and I went, well, where do I suffer? And I realized frustration is suffering. I get frustrated. I get concerned. I get pissed off. I get, worried sometimes. I get these feelings. And so what I decided to do was, just really create a 90-second rule for myself where I would end suffering as it arises. Because anybody tells you you're going to end suffering is full of crap. The reason is your brain is a 2 million-year-old brain, and it's not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive. But there's no saber-toothed tiger for you to react to anymore. So now we worry about what are people thinking of us? Do I have enough money? Over the last 2 years, what I've done is play this little 90-second rule. And if I feel tension in me, I go, okay, that's suffering. Where's it come from? What am I stressed about? What am I concerned about? And what I immediately do is I realize the stressful thoughts. Since I've seen Christian G, I kind of traded one thing. What I really do now is I dig in and I notice that the only time you have stress or suffer is when you believe a stressful thought. Because what are the chances of everybody doing exactly what you think they should do the right way every day? 0. What are the chances of the people you love doing what you want them to do the way you want to do them every day? 0. What are the chances of you doing the right thing every day, even if you're talented and disciplined? 0. So your happiness will never last as long as it's got expectation behind it. What I did was I began to realize I made the decision, it's the most important decision I believe of your life, that I'm not going to suffer anymore. Life's too short to suffer, and I'm going to live in a beautiful state every day. And the way I do it is I catch myself when I start to get that sense of stress, I let it go, and I see the idea go by. So your thoughts about this person messing up your business or not following through. If I was in a room with 10,000 people, I guarantee you 60, 70% of the business owners have the same thoughts at times, right? I ask people all the time, tell me your most stressful thought. Oh, I'm worried about my children, this may happen. How many people have had that thought? Everybody. I might not make it financially, blah, blah, blah. How many have had that? Everybody. My point is, it's not your thought. It's the mind, not your mind. When you think it's your mind, you identify with it, and you can't separate from yourself. Right. But when you realize, these thoughts have been around for millions of years. And I'm just thinking the same thought that so many people thought before. Like, how many people have ever thought, I'm gonna kill this son of a bitch? Now, you didn't do it, because you didn't believe you're really gonna kill them. But you felt it, you said it, you were there, right? So we all have thoughts. It's only the stressful thoughts we believe that mess us up. So what I try to show people is, if you can start to realize, these thoughts have been around for millions of years. If I told you 1,000,000 years, 1,000, 100 years ago that we're gonna go to the moon and back, you called me a lunatic or crazy. If I said 100 years ago, you're gonna have a little box like this, it'll fit in your pocket, and you can click on it and you can see what the weather is any place. You can click on it and see a live person on the other side of the earth and talk to them by looking at this box. And the way it works is invisible waves are traveling around the earth, and it pulls invisible waves in the box. You go like, read between the lines. There's no way, you dumb idiot, it's never gonna happen. So what I want you to realize is thoughts are invisible waves. When you turn on TV, it takes invisible waves, and depending on the channel, you're gonna see a love story, or an adventure, or a drama, or a comedy, or a horror. The way you use your body determines which of those thought waves come through you. One moment you're pissed off, the next moment somebody makes you laugh, you change your body, you change the channel, you change what comes through you. So what I've tried to do in this Airy Beautiful state is simple. First, identify where you're suffering. What's your favorite flavor? Are you a worrier? Are you a pissed off person?
Stressed, angry.
What is it you do? Yeah. Second of all, decide you're gonna kill that monster while it's little. You're not gonna wait till it's Godzilla taking the city. You're gonna break the pattern. You start to feel the stress, you see it as thoughts going by, and then you focus on something to appreciate, enjoy, or love. Appreciation, love, and joy destroy suffering. You can't be grateful and angry simultaneously. It's possible. You can't be worried and fearful and grateful simultaneously. So I tell people gratitude is one of the emotions to cultivate that'll destroy the suffering.
The question is not, are you worthy to reach your goals? The question is, are your goals worthy enough of you?
Why do we do things against our better judgment? I mean, this is an age-old question. When we know what to do, why don't we just do it? And particularly in today's age where we have the world's information at our fingertips, we don't have the excuse of not knowing what to do anymore. Who doesn't know basically how to lose weight?
Okay, maybe the specifics, but we basically know that chocolate cake is not as healthy as a healthy salad. Who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know that if you want to have better relationships with people, you have to be fully present with them? Who doesn't know that if you want to do better at your job, you have to do the work, especially the hard stuff that other people don't want to do? We know these things. So there's no excuse anymore to say, well, I just didn't know how. Google is right there for anyone to use. What we're lacking is the ability to follow through. We're lacking the ability to avoid distraction. Getting ahead in life is not just about doing the right things. It's about avoiding not doing the wrong things. And that's what becoming indistractable is all about. It's about whatever it is that you say is important to you in your life, how do you make sure you do those things?
Well, if somebody says something out loud, it's 10 times more powerful than if they think it. That negativity is a multiple of 4 to 7 times more powerful than positivity. So think about that. If I say something out loud, it's 10x. If it's negative, it's 4 to 7 times more powerful. So when I say negative things out loud, it's 40 to 70 times more likely that that will happen or cause a result that won't be good for me than if I just didn't say anything.
I've been in a moment of failure. It's because I was sort of really scared of what people would think. I was living in some other guideline, some other path that somebody told me, like, oh, you have to go to college and then start a business and be successful. And once you're successful, you're smart and no one should ever know that you're stupid. So I was afraid to let people know that I didn't go on this straight path. So that's the ordinary world. And then, in the arc of the hero, you go from the ordinary world to the extraordinary. The extraordinary is when I admit failure and now I have to go on this very unusual path to find my way back. And that's going from the ordinary world to the extraordinary. And then along the way, you have bigger and bigger problems and you meet your new friends and people who will help you until finally you have the greatest crisis of all and you bring it back to tell the story. Like you bring it back and you have a podcast or you write an article or whatever, and that's the full arc of the hero.
For me, fear, the things I'm scared of, I'm like, come on. It's calling me. It says, hey, come play over here. It's an indicator. It's a good indicator, not a bad indicator. Lean into it. Come play with me, okay? So I either have fear because it's really dangerous. Yeah, like I'm gonna get to the edge of this thing. I'm gonna get on the other side of that thing. I'm probably gonna be scared because I don't know what it feels like to fall, this many floors and hit. Maybe it does. Maybe there's no big deal about it. Maybe dying's not even a big deal. But I don't have the experience. I don't consciously have the. So, I used to be like, I can't buy a $78,000 house. I was terrified the first house I bought. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the problem, and you're not going to have the experience if you don't move through the fear. And a lot of people do it once and then they don't do it again. You got it's not going away. It's just you're gonna get used to. You're going to get used to the ski boots. The first time you put them on, man, they're freaking banging your shins. Like, I can't, man. But you just wear into them.
So interest, curiosity is that open quality that we've been talking about that's really about being curious about the journey. Like, look at this grain of wood. Isn't that, and not just isn't that interesting intellectually, but just really letting our senses rip. And just letting that feeling of curiosity come pouring out.
Think about where you could be in 10 years. You don't have to know how to get there. Elon Musk hasn't solved all the problems to get to Mars. But when he talks about why he's here, when he talks about that vision, he's talking 10 years ahead. Because it explains how many of these big minds are literally applying envisioning to build their businesses. And that the envisioning concept is more important than talent or venture capital or ideas or execution. It starts with envisioning. Everything else flows from there. Realism is nothing more than a socially acceptable form of pessimism. The people with the most consistent track records of success don't think in terms of what is, they think in terms of what could be.
Of when they get to work, they say they're going to do something. They say they're going to work on that big project. They're going to stop procrastinating and do that thing that they've been planning to do right after they check email. right after they scroll that Slack channel, right after they do that quick thing that they have to talk with a colleague real quick. And so 30, 45 minutes later, they still haven't started to do the thing they plan to do. I call it pseudo work. I kind of need to check email, right? I kind of need to do that stuff. But if I plan to do something else at that time, it is just as much of a distraction. So anything can become a distraction as well. And the reason this is so pernicious is that we are slaves now to the urgent at the sacrifice of the important when we do that. And today, in today's age where technology is so pervasive and so persuasive, I mean, it is designed to be persuasive, and we want it to be persuasive, we want products to be engaging, then it's easier than ever to get distracted.
And I think it's not so much to say fit your life into an arc on purpose. You should just ask yourself, maybe, am I the hero of my journey? Like, what can I do today to have, even in a microscopic way, something that is a mini call from a mini ordinary to a mini extraordinary? I think it's an interesting challenge.
A, your language is powerful, but number two, your behavior is way ahead of your success. And so many people let their feelings dictate what they do, as opposed to throw your behavior out there. Russell Wilson's 5'10". He shouldn't be playing pro football, but he behaves like the best quarterback in the country, and he's done that since before he was at that level, and then his feelings and emotions and his skill caught up to that behavior. What I do, not how I feel about my past, is going to determine who I am in the future. And that's what I think neutral thinking is. I think neutral thinking isn't just thinking, I think it's behavior, and I think it's language. And so your behavior is what's going to change you. But you also have to start by asking yourself, what do I want and why do I want it? Why don't I have it?
When you wake up, when you have this transformation, when you go from Elon Musk to Elon plus the wisdom of Ariana, in that metaphor, you start opening yourself up to so much more. Now, the first aspect of the dark side of vision is this imbalance, but I want to tell you about another aspect, and that second aspect is cultural programming. The visions that we are pursuing don't come from us. They come from outside us. I became an engineer not because I wanted to be an engineer, it's because I'm an Indian male, and if you're an Indian immigrant, you learn very early in your family that your parents value education, you're going to come back with A's, all A's, not 1B or 1C, and that there are only 4 options in your life. You become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, or a family embarrassment.
Why do we do anything? What's the nature of human motivation? And when you think about it, most people will tell you some version of carrots and sticks, that it's about the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. This is Freud's pleasure principle.
Yeah.
But neurologically speaking, that's not true. That in fact, we do not do things in the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. That neurologically speaking, we only do things for one reason, and that is to avoid discomfort. Physiologically, we know this is true. If you go outside and it's cold, that's not comfortable. What do? You put on a coat. And when you go back inside, now it's too hot, that's not comfortable, you take it off. If you're hungry, you feel hunger pangs, you eat. And when you're stuffed, oh, that doesn't feel good, you stop eating. So physiologically, we feel this all the time. This is called the homeostatic response. The same rules apply with psychological sensations, not just with physiological sensations. So when you're feeling lonely, check Facebook. When you're uncertain, you Google. When you're bored, check the news, check sports scores, check Reddit, Pinterest, whatever. All of these things cater to these uncomfortable sensations. So that means if all human behavior is spurred by a desire to escape discomfort, that means, as you said, time management is pain management.
Even if I'm going through a difficult challenge, even if I'm going through a reorg in a business, you know, if I still feel like, okay, this is not optimal, but there's something I can do, then I'm helpful to myself. And when I'm helpful, I'm hopeful. And when I'm helpless, I'm hopeless. We have to believe that we can influence our future. You know, we've got to believe, I believe that no matter what I'm facing, I can influence my future. That just because my first marriage didn't work, that doesn't mean my second marriage won't. But it's incumbent upon me to be better. What are you going to do to be different going forward? So many people think the self-help industry is about things you do. I think one of the things that makes athletes so incredible is what they're willing not to do, what they're willing not to say, what they're willing not to eat, what they're willing not to consume, what they're willing not to watch. What are 5 things you cannot do right now that will instantly make your life better?
My biggest advice to give everybody in the world is, like I say, we live in an external world. If you can, for the rest of your life, live inside of yourself. All these insecure people putting their insecurities on you, you gotta flush it out. You gotta just be whoever the hell God or whoever the hell you believe in. If you believe in nothing but yourself, I don't care what it is. You gotta take everything and throw it away. You have to believe in one thing, and that is yourself.
Imagine that you were taking care of yourself like you were someone you actually cared for. And then you thought, okay, I'm caring for this person. I would like things to go as well for them as possible. What would their life have to be like in order for that to be the case? 3 years from now, you can have what you need. You gotta be careful about it. You can't have everything. You can have what would be good for you, but you have to figure out what it is, and then you have to aim at it.
Right now, for you to find greatness in yourself, you're not gonna find it by looking in a book or by even hearing me. I may give you the spark, but you've got to go inside yourself to find it.
We're all walking around managing perfect dysfunction. Like, let's just say that. Like, there is no perfect. Pursuing perfect is a false pursuit that will always leave you disappointed, right? And so our job is to perfectly dance with our imperfection.
One of the things that's really, really important to make familiar is praise. And one of the things to make unfamiliar is criticism.
But if you can get through to doing things that you hate to do, on the other side is greatness.
Your life belongs to those people who are going to cross your path. And because they cross your path, not anybody else's, but because they cross your path, you inspired them to want to be a better person. You inspired them to want to express love in the way that they hadn't thought before. You inspired them to listen with open ears and an open heart because they crossed your path.
Dark room, you face yourself, you realize you want to be better, you realize you don't want to be this weak, insecure person in the world who has all these problems that we all have. We all have. So that's where that dark room is.
The major cause of depression are harsh, hurtful, critical words that you say to yourself over and over again.
First one is clarity. Clarity meaning solitude is a wonderful time for self-reflection. To self-reflect, to go inside when you're going very fast and you're driving your life very fast, you don't often have time to just say, am I going in the right direction? And so clarity can come from the power of questions. Questions give you answers. And you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers.
But a huge part of the reason that people fail is because they don't ever set up the criteria for success. And so since success is a very narrow line and very unlikely, the probability that you're going to stumble on it randomly is zero. And so there's a proposition here, and the proposition is, if you actually want something, you can have it. Now the question then would be, well, what do you mean by actually want? And the answer is that you reorient your life in every possible way to make the probability that that will occur as certain as possible.
You don't get to come in and leave without being responsible for those that you impact. And when you understand that, you're like, hold on, my life literally sends waves out into the universe. It sends waves to the people around me, and it impacts the way they choose to show up in the world. When you recognize that, then the question becomes, so what do you say?
It's so easy to be great nowadays. Most people are weak. This is a softened generation. So if you have any mental toughness, any ability, if you have any fraction of self-discipline, the ability to not want to do it but still do it. It wasn't until I changed that mentality that I became somebody.
Your mind doesn't care if what you tell it is right or wrong, good or bad, healthy or unhealthy. It lets it all in. Your mind will do what you tell it. Now that you know that, tell it great things.
What's most important to me in life? And then you make a list of those things. And then ask yourself second question. And the second question is, are the actions I'm taking each day fulfilling those values, my answers? Are your actions giving you those values, fulfilling those values? So get clarity and journal and write them down. Check in with yourself.
So I have a dream. Okay, fantastic. I have one question. What skills does your dream require you to obtain? I always tell people, stop rehearsing the failure and stop rehearsing it under the guise of I just want to be ready. I want to have a backup plan. Well, the problem is what you're going through over and over and over is how things are going to go wrong. It is far better for you to put your energy into how to make sure that they go right. Then you're rehearsing over and over and over. You don't just think about the 1,000 ways that a building could fall. You think about structural integrity. You think about how do you build that in? Where do the posts have to be? That's the thing that you rewire over and over.
So get to the spot where your mind is saying stop. Wherever that is, you gotta get there first. You gotta control yourself in that moment.
This is my dream and not be ashamed by it, because whatever your dream is, like, that's your dream. Don't let somebody else take that away from you.
You tend to think that what you want, you just march right towards it. But if in sports you march right towards the goal, what happens? The defenders come in. And what the defenders are is it's your brain saying, ain't gonna happen. So the second you start moving toward that thing you want, be ready. You're gonna tell yourself you don't feel like it. You're gonna have to force yourself. It's happening. There's no way to get around it. And I wanna remind you about something. Unlike a sports field where there's an in and out of bounds, the great thing about life is there actually aren't any. And it's usually in those moments where you feel like you can't do it, that you're closer than ever to having everything that you wanted. And I wanted to show you this so that you keep it in mind, because I think a lot of times when you look back, it's the darkest moments where you realize, holy cow, that's what projected me forward.
But what makes mastery is execution on the ideas, not the ideas. And so no idea works unless you're willing to roll up your sleeves, do the practice, invest the time, put in the effort, do the work.
Typically on the other side of your greatest fear, of your greatest insecurity, is your greatest blessing. Everyone goes, well, get out of your comfort zone, you'll find it. No. What you're afraid of and what you're insecure about, on the other side of that is typically one of the great gifts or blessings in your life. You don't even know the magnitude of what it's costing you to give into your fears and insecurities. And by the way, insecurities and fears are different things. They're both really insidious, detrimental things that people struggle with. And so on the other side of your fear, that's one thing, and on the other side of your greatest insecurity are blessings, and you have no idea the immeasurable waves that you're missing in your life because you are giving into them and cowering to them.
there's people around you, whether they're in your life or now social media, you know, people are always going to tell you no, and people are always going to like roll your eyes when you tell them your dream or your goal. And I think that those dreams and those goals are within reach, and they're, you know, just at the tip of our fingertips.
What you're after is the emotion, and so what I want people to get is the emotion they want now, and all it is a new habit. It's learning to discipline this mind, right? By realizing the mind thoughts are out there and letting them float by and constantly coming back to what can I love about this? What can I appreciate? It's like, if you can learn to love or at least appreciate, start to enjoy the things that you used to get upset about, how much freedom would you have?
And there's just a part of you, I think, in anything you're doing when you're struggling, is this really for me? Is this my destiny? Should I be doing this? And we misread failure from some sign, you know, is this a sign I shouldn't be doing it? You know, is this a sign I am, you know, not cut out for this? Instead of looking for signs that you can win.
And make a decision now that says, I'm gonna live in a beautiful state and I'm gonna find beauty in whatever life brings me. Because life is too short not to.
Play the long game. Aim for legendary. Don't just say, I want to be world class in my dominant pursuit for a little window of time. Say, I want to have the guts and the grit and the acumen and the mindset and the capability and the commitment to create enduring success. And that's why I say nothing fails like success.
And it's that executing against dreams that will change your life. It is not the dream itself. And that is my mission in life, to get people to understand. One, it's not enough to dream. And two, you can learn those skills. And once you have those skills, you can create. Once you can create, you can shape your life. And that's what it's about. People slide into depression because they don't think they can create the life they want. They feel that they're beholden to someone else, that there's some invisible game being played that they don't understand, that they're at the mercy of rules to which they're not privy to.
The world has to hear your voice. That when it's looked back on 20 years from now, and you were here, there's an opportunity to say, what did we do? Where did we go? How did I show up? How did I share? How did I show out? How did I do it?
A resilient person is capable of standing up to things in the face of fear and moving forward voluntarily, convinced of their own competence and ability to prevail. We don't even want to be protected from those difficulties, because a major part of life and its meaning is the challenge that comes with confronting difficulties.
We're all going to have these days where it just feels like it's too hard, we don't want to do it anymore, and you want to quit. And that's okay, but you can't quit or give up on those days.
You are where you are because of the choices you've made and the skill set you've built. Period. End of story. Now, why is that the best news ever? Because it means you're in control. You've steered yourself to exactly this point. Now, you may not have been paying attention, you may not have had the clarity that you now know that you need if you want to end up in the exact place that you want to end up. But now that you take that control back and you recognize that you can go anywhere you want, become anyone you want to become, but you're going to have to put in the work. Now you can decide whether you want to put in that work or not. And if you don't, that's fair enough. Because the real punchline of all of this, by the way to win this game called life is not money. It is quite simply, what do you think about yourself when you're by yourself?
What if? Body's broken, mind's broken, spirit's broken. I start to say, what if I can pull this off? It's the what if I can pull off a miracle.
What if I can become someone that no one thinks I can be?
Everyone knows that you wake up at 3 in the morning when you let your life go off the rails.
The decisions you make right now is up to you. You crying about something that happened to you when you was a kid. You ain't even no kid no more.
The hard thing is taking the first step. Everything else is just persistence.
So what I want you to understand about the breakthrough is that 90% is work. But the last 10%, that's fight.
You commit to do this for the long term. Whether it's hard or easy doesn't matter. You're doing this.
I tell you to set goals beyond your lifetime. I tell you to set goals as soon as humanly possible. You will never exceed your highest expectation. You will never exceed your highest, craziest thought. That's a guarantee. And so then why to set low goals?
Every tool you have, and most people will not use every single tool they have. Because they're afraid, they don't know how to control it, they don't want to acknowledge it, they're afraid of being judged. They want to stand out. They want to be different. They want women to acknowledge them. But they have so much doubt of what greatness and the unforgiving race actually requires to win over and over again. We all have fear. We all have fear, but these individuals have so much doubt. Think about the times where everything was going wrong. Nothing was going right. What kept you going? What kept you going? You were in that place. What kept you going? That was your dark energy. When does a new day start? At midnight. If a new day starts in the dark, why are you afraid to use your dark side for your new beginnings?
We tell ourselves the story, we play the only part we've ever known, and then that part becomes our own and we don't know how to separate it. So we understand praise manipulates. We'll accept your own praise. Your mind says if you say it, it must be true, which is why self-criticism goes in and does so much damage, and self-praise goes in and does so much repairing, because the most important words you'll ever hear are the words you say to yourself.
You have too many individuals out there that are not writing their own story. They're letting other people write those stories for them.
So the first thing is, that's the first big problem right there. First big problem is that you have put a lot of people above you, put no one above you, no one.
And how many times have we given up on a dream because we were mocked by the people around you? And all I'm suggesting to you is when you get laughed at, ridiculed, and when people don't understand your next level of world class, that just means you've got a great dream, and that just means you're on the path of growth.
But momentum requires you always do the next thing to keep the momentum going. And the reason you get yourself in a passionate place is so that you change your life, and the only thing that changes your life is making a decision.
And nothing will happen in this world. Everything will happen wonderfully well, even if you're not there. Every human being should be aware of this every moment of his life. It does not matter what the whole world says about you. It does not matter how significant a work you're doing. You must understand that tomorrow morning the world will go on fine without you, whoever you may be. If you constantly remind yourself of this,
you'll have no reason to be serious.
Everything I didn't want to do is what got me to where I'm at today. Every single thing. So where we find comfort, that's where I started getting scared. When I started saying, oh, it's raining, I'm not going out there. No, you cannot say that. You cannot do that. You have got to do this.
So while you're in this passionate state, that's where you make decisions. If you make a decision in a state without momentum, if you make a decision from a place where there's no passion, you are not going to get momentum. It'll kill momentum. It's decide, commit, and resolve.
Truly, that you make things happen so that the person you are starting tomorrow is more of who you know you truly are.
Most individuals, your mind will make a decision. Say, we're going to do this. Your feelings always make suggestions. When you fail, your feelings give you excuses. Your mind makes you more resilient.
There are things that you know that you must focus on, but it scares you. I want you to look at where in your life that story is robbing you of your dreams, and where it is giving you an excuse to avoid the things that you know you need to do.
People will point out your weaknesses, but there's a big difference between your weaknesses and your flaws. Your flaws are your gifts, and people are so busy trying to deal with their flaws and change their flaws when their flaws are actually allows them to stay in that race.
Everyone's good at something. You know, you're not meant to be good at everything. It's no good being a jack of all trades and a master of none. So be really good at what you're good at, and don't worry about what you're not good at, because we're not all supposed to be good at the same thing. Find your talent, you know. Find out what you love to do. What you're meant to do lies directly behind and is absolutely linked to what you love to do.
A decision is the first step.
I think one of the biggest ways that all of us can hold ourselves back is listening to that nasty little lie inside our head that says, I'm not ready yet. I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough credentials. Who am I to do X, Y, or Z? And then we just delay, and before you know it, months, if not years, have gone by and we haven't made any real progress.
Well, the first thing I would say is, well, you should be afraid of taking risks and pursuing something meaningful. But you should be more afraid of staying where you are if it's making you miserable. It's like the first thing you want to do is dispense with the idea that you get to have any permanent security outside of your ability to contend and adapt. You're paying a price by sitting there being miserable. You might say, well, the devil I know is better than the one I don't. It's like, don't be so sure of that. The clock is ticking. If you're miserable in your job now and you change nothing, in 5 years you'll be much more miserable and you'll be a lot older.
Resolve means it's done. It's like, it doesn't even if you took action, it's done inside you, so it's done out there. There's no question whatsoever. Then once you decide, the only way the commitment and the energy and the momentum continues is if you take immediate, massive what, my friends? Massive what? Massive action is the cure-all. Massive action is the cure-all. If you're having a difficult time with something, your relationship isn't where you want it to be, your finances are not where you want to be, your body's not where you want to be, your business is not where you want to be, you need to take massive action. And if that doesn't work, try something else. If that doesn't work, try something else. Keep going with massive action, and you will find the way because it will give you momentum.
The hard thing is taking the first step. Everything else is just persistence. And I've always loved that quote because it's so true. It doesn't mean that you're going to get it right. It doesn't mean that just because you start, you're going to win. In fact, most likely, the first thing you do, you're going to fail. Think about all the times that you guys tried something and it failed. And the question is, what did you do then? If you learned from it, doubled down, figured it out, focused only on the truth, then you'll move forward. You move forward because you believe you can learn. And that's that thing, hiding in that. And this is the thing when people ask me, hey, my mom or my wife, my husband, whatever, they don't have that belief system. How do I get them there? The answer is you don't, until they are convinced that they can learn anything that they put their mind to, that their energies double down into that area of gaining skills will actually pay off with a real world ability to do something new. They're not going to act.
I don't remember now, I'm not talking about what makes you happy. It's a luxury to pursue what makes you happy. It's a moral obligation to pursue what you find meaningful. A goal, we develop a vision and work towards it, and things inevitably get better for people. It's not a luxury, it's difficult. It's a moral responsibility, and it isn't happiness. It's not, the pursuit isn't for happiness.
Life is the most brutal endurance sport of all time, and that's what we have to love about it. We have to flip it on its head and love the fact that life continues to attack us. There are no timeouts. You have to figure stuff out on the fly. You have to be that person who's always prepared. But the solitude right now that all of us are dealing with is what we don't want to deal with. It's the fact that we have to think about all these things that we don't like about ourselves. We like to use life as a big escape. That escape is not there anymore. All these distractions that we use, they're no longer there. This is the time right now for you to stop avoiding things. Get that pen and paper out. Look inside yourself. Stop looking at me or other people out here to be the hero of your story. This is time for you right now in all that solitude to get to know who you are as a person. Be alone with yourself, knowing one thing in life. We are all very fragile in this world. We have to know that when we die with some meaning and some purpose in this world.
Is to generate a vision of, it's not a plan or a strategy, it's a philosophical vision. Justifies your life in some way that you deeply believe. It has to be that, and it can't be trivial because otherwise procrastination and instant gratification are going to rule you. So the first question you might ask yourself is, well, what would you need to gain? And you have to have a real dialogue with yourself to understand this. You have to take yourself, warts and all, your useless, procrastinating, instant gratification seeking self, and you have to sit down and say, all right, you're talking to your inner badly behaved 6-year-old. It's like, okay, what is it that you would have to have in order to commit to something in the long run? What kind of vision of the future would justify sacrifices for you? Here's the question. You're taking care of yourself like you're someone you care about. You can design a future that would be good for you if you were taking care of yourself. Write for 20 minutes. You can have what you want. It's 3 years down the road. You can have whatever you want. You have to aim for it and work for it. And you have to specify it. What is it? What do you want? What would make your life worthwhile? What would be good enough so that instant gratification would be an obstacle instead of a means for proceeding?
If you make a decision in a state without momentum, if you make a decision from a place where there's no passion, you are not going to get momentum. It'll kill momentum. It's decide, commit, and resolve. Some of you, in the past, you've gotten momentum, you've gotten passionate, you've even made a decision. But a decision is the first step. Decision is like a war. I gotta do this or that. All right, I'm gonna make myself do this. But commitment is when you now, after you've decided, you commit to do this for the long term. Whether it's hard or easy, doesn't matter. You're doing this. Because I wouldn't assemble the story that my past equals my future. The past only equals your future if you live there. If you're using a rearview mirror to guide yourself, you're gonna crash. So what you've been through is horrific. What you've been through is unjust. I'm on your side. But if you hang on to it, you have no future. And you have no one to blame but yourself. Free yourself from the chains of your past.
In other words, the minute you begin to get external in your life, worrying about what other people think about you, right? You've lost all control. And it never fills you up. And people's admiration, people's gratitude towards you will never fill you up. It's your own. It's your own inside.
You have a lot of potential as a child, but none of that is capable of manifesting itself as freedom before you become disciplined. And discipline is a matter of the imposition of order, and the order is necessary, especially for people who are hopeless and nihilistic. And lots of people are hopeless and nihilistic. Way more people than you think. And part of that is because no one's ever really encouraged them.
Your life, you're probably never going to exceed your identity. Your identity is the thoughts and concepts that you believe to hold really to be true about yourself.
It is so easy to get lost in the day-to-day grind of what you do, what any of us do. If at the core driving you is a deep and unending why for what you're doing, you've got something. Now you've got a chance to transcend what you're doing.
Because if you want joy, happiness, and freedom in an extraordinary life, it will not come from blame. Never. There's no pride that comes from blame. That's why you need self-esteem. Self-esteem does not come from what people say about you. Self-esteem comes from what you experience about yourself.
It's a complete dynamic dance between what the Vedic tradition would call fate and free will. So fate is what is already created for you, and a good example would be the place you were born, the type of family you grew up in, the socioeconomic background you had. It was already there when you walked into the world. But within that, you had choices where your free will came about. You had the choice to either do what everyone in your neighborhood did or to do something different. You had the choice to have a relationship with a particular person or not. So what happens is that we're constantly creating new spaces from which we have another choice. And so you kind of see it as this dynamic dance between, okay, now I'm in this situation, and now what is my choice in this situation? So I would say, I'm not saying it's equal, I'm saying it's a dynamic balance and a switching process where you're constantly creating a new level, and then now in that level you have a next choice.
First, you're in service to something higher. And you begin to ask yourself, because you've been given everything, you're a composite spiritual idea that carries the infinite in ways beyond your wildest imagining. You have to live in the inquiry of what can I give, what can I share, how can I shine, how can I radiate. You have to give up the thought of what can I get from the world. The world has nothing for you at all. There is nothing the world has for you other than an opportunity for you to give, for you to share, for you to serve, for you to radiate, for you to activate your potential.
But if you just do your vision every single day, putting one foot in front of the other, committed to your desires.
Instead of lack, limitation, fear, doubt, worry, separation, not enoughness, your narrative becomes I have everything that I need within me. I am surrendered to something larger than my little self. I am in service to it. That flows through me.
But fear is physical. You feel in your throat or your gut. So it's courage. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It just means you're strong enough, you push through in spite of the fear, right? And courage feels different in the body. So when you go lift, or you go for a sprint, or a strong run, or you jump in that freezing water, when you push your mind to go beyond what's comfortable, you feel a strength inside you, and that strength will help you to change your body, your emotions, your relationships. And there's lots of different purposes as you go through your life. But most people are trying to get that. They haven't even figured out what the hell they're going to do. They haven't even figured out how to enjoy their life. Your purpose will unfold if you do the right things.
It's a hard one for people because we grow up believing that we're not good enough and nothing is right. When you talk about loving yourself, a lot of people think that that's vanity. And if you can recognize that you are a being that has self-worth, if you can really recognize your own worth, then you start to treat yourself differently. And I think that's what's so very important about loving yourself, is you stop beating yourself up, you stop making yourself wrong, you stop talking about how awful you are, and you start to treat yourself with a certain amount of respect. And this makes an enormous difference because what you give out in life is what comes back to you. So if you're giving out a feeling of, I'm okay, I'm good enough as I am, and I am acceptable, and I love life, and I love me, and you start having gratitude for yourself and for life, then life treats you differently.
Every time I've lost, people say, you got to jump right back up. You know, get back right on your feet again. And I disagree with that. After you lose, or when you get knocked down, stay down there for a minute. Understand why you lost. What were the reasons? Why are you down here? Why did you lose? Why did you get knocked down? I stayed down for a second. Minutes, hours, days, weeks. But when I stood up, I was different. I was smarter. And when I lost again, I stayed down. I stood back up. I was stronger. When I lost again, I stayed down. Lost again, stood up, I was more resilient. Now you start putting the pieces that are necessary to win over and over and over again. So if you lose and you jump right back up and you haven't really changed, really changed from that loss,
You're never going to learn from it, and you're never going to really, truly know the unforgiving race to greatness.
Time don't like nobody. Time hate all of us. Time is trying to stay away from us. You think I'm gonna waste the rest of the time that I got to be operating out here, crying and complaining? I could be using that time to change my life. I could be using that time to embrace the reality of life and the reality I've done to put myself. I paid for my ticket. I got on the train. There was many stops that came. I didn't get off at them stops. I went to the final destination of the boat I was living in. Now it's time to just be out here on a journey through life, experiencing new things, new ideas, exposure. And that's what I realized. A lot of us don't expose ourselves to new things, new ideas. We're not open to different, open to change. And that's what helped me. I became open to all shit.
When you remove desperation, all this creeps into your life where you think you have to have the perfect plan and look the perfect way and have the perfect thoughts and be all zen and perfect. What you need is to be desperate. What you need is to get after it.
Once you realize that you're playing a game of neurochemistry, and when you suffer because you want something, or you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or you have a negative story that you're telling yourself about your own self-worth because what your parents said to you, not worth the money, or whatever the case, like whatever has happened to you, whatever wound you have, like people begin to get a sense of self that is about that wound. And so they're not feeling good. And they're trying everything they can to escape that. And it's like, okay, what is the sort of original progenerator of this sense of suffering? Desire. Right? And so that Buddhist notion of desire gives birth to all of your suffering.
Power is the ability to guide yourself through a very dangerous world, very competitive world where we're almost all having to we don't get much help or cooperation from the world. In this world where there are no rule books telling us how to navigate it, it's very complicated, very difficult, and you make mistakes that you can suffer for. And power is knowledge, is ideas, is understanding how to navigate a very dangerous world. Okay? So you want that. So you want that, right? The idea of wasting your potential, of never realizing your goals, of never being able to create that business you wanted to create, or make that film that you think is in you, or start the business that you're starting. That's what you want in life. And if you don't want that, there's nothing I can say that will help you.
Believing in what, God's given you is like playing truth or dare. The truth is I'm afraid, but I'm going to dare to believe anyway. The truth is I'm not qualified, but I'm going to dare to go after it anyway. Just because it's true doesn't mean it has to become the compass in which you navigate your life with. Sometimes faith is a dare. Sometimes building is a dare. My heart is broken, but I'm going to dare to love again. I'm grieving, but I'm going to dare to get up and go to work. I'm going to dare to continue to show up in my life with my broken pieces, with my leftovers, because I believe that if I continue to do that, there is unexpected beauty for me to behold. Not for me to achieve, but for me to behold. There is a version of Him that you have yet to behold.
I like to say sometimes that the journey to greatness begins the moment that our deep desires for comfort and ease are overpowered by our desires to connect and contribute.
Anything after the word I am is true to your unconscious mind. Right? Anything after I am, anything after I am, even if you know it's not true, your conscious mind will believe it. Anything after I am. And so the power of I am can pull you through the darkest moment, the power of I am.
And you're going to have these mornings and these moments where you dare to keep your eyes open even when it's easier to go through them with them closed and afraid. I'm gonna keep my eyes open and my heart open because there's another me that I want to behold.
If you've been sitting around waiting for somebody to discover you, to pick you, to save you, to rescue you, to give you your shot, it's not going to happen. Like, at some point, you got to wake up and realize you have to parent yourself. Your life is your responsibility.
Close your eyes. Retreat from your life. Disconnect from your body. Disconnect from your environment. Disconnect from your schedule and just give yourself an hour or 45 minutes or 20 minutes, because when you invest in yourself, you invest in your future. And when you believe in yourself, you believe in possibilities. And when you believe in possibilities, you believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in possibilities, then you don't believe in yourself. And you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in possibilities. So then, but if you have a community, a living organism, where it's becoming the new normal, and you want to join that living organism, and you want to, every stride you make feeds the living organism. Every stride, every effort you make to connect is amazing, because that which we are seeking is seeking us.
So the real question is, what is it that you can fall in love with enough that makes all the fighting through the negative voice and all of that worth it? So that's number one, is just to recognize that you've got a long timeline ahead of you.
So when you stop outsourcing your happiness, your validation, your support, all of it, and you bring it back in, and you get responsible for it, it sounds scary, it's so liberating, because you could do anything. When you're responsible, when you're the driver of your life, when you're not looking out to anybody else to fix it for you, can you ask for help? Of course, but the buck stops with you. You're the one that has to do the work. You're the one who has to push your own ass. You're the one who has to figure out what makes you happy. You're the one who has to figure out and become self-aware about what you need. And then you're the one that has to find whatever it is, the courage or being humble enough to ask for help.
That's the eternal problem of life. And the problem is, there is the category of problems in life, and it ain't going anywhere. And so the question is, can you deal with the whole category at the same time? That's the thing. That's how to be in the world, is to deal with that category all at the same time. Sacrifice. What does that mean, sacrifice? Well, it's a discovery, man. It's the discovery of the future. It's like the future is actually the place where there is threat. It's always going to be there. So what do? You make sacrifices in the present so that the future is better. Right. Forestall gratification now, and it'll pay off at a place and time that doesn't even exist yet. It's like, who would have believed that? It's like, that's a miracle that occurs. And it's not like people just figure that out overnight.
Most people aren't obsessed with their goals because they don't believe they're worthy of them. It's easy to dream about what you want, but in between where you are and what you want, there's a tremendous amount of stuff you got to change and do. And if you have a lot of trauma in your background, you have been given the message over and over and over, even though it's not true, that you don't deserve it, that there's something wrong with you. And if you don't, at some point, be defiant against what the world or your caregivers or your past experience has pounded into your brain incorrectly, unfairly, you will forever be stuck with that story.
Pain plus reflection equals progress. And I think that that's incredibly, incredibly true. And the human animal just needs that bit of pain. It is the compass that's going to allow you, if you reflect on why you're feeling that pain, what you did wrong, how you failed, you don't deflect, you don't make it somebody else's problem. You really just look at, how did I f this up? If you look at that and are willing to make the changes, you really will make progress. I don't see a way to really have grand scale change without the suffering. That's the truth.
The idea is that nothing brings a better world into being than the stated truth. Now, you might have to pay a price for that, but that's fine. You're going to pay a price for every bloody thing you do and everything you don't do. You don't get to choose to not pay a price. You get to choose which poison you're going to take. That's it. So if you're going to stand up for something, stand up for your truth. It'll shape you, because people will respond and object and tell you why you're a fool and a biased moron and why you're ignorant. And then if you listen to them, you'll be just that much less like that the next time you say something. And if you do that for 5 years, you'll be so damn tough and articulate and able to communicate and withstand pressure that you won't even recognize yourself. And then you'll be a force to contend with.
You are not responsible for what happened to you. You survived what happened to you. But you do have a responsibility to heal yourself and to do the work to change so that you can be the happy, fulfilled person that you were born to be. You can have a mindset that says, through my efforts, my attitude, I can have an impact on the situation that I'm in. That's the power that I have. That's where it begins. It begins with you. Self-confidence, self-love, self-esteem, self-reliance, self-awareness. It all has the same self. You have to give yourself those things. You want validation? Give it to yourself. You want to be cheered for? Give it to yourself. You want to feel supported in life? Start by giving those things to yourself, because the most important relationship that you have is the one you have with yourself, and you work on it the least. You can have nothing, and you can still have your own back. You can have tremendous problems and very real obstacles that you're facing. And you can have a mindset that says, through my efforts, my attitude, I can have an impact on the situation that I'm in.
Do great things while they are still small. The sage does not attempt anything very big, and thus achieves greatness. Greatness comes from being in the moment, here, present, in the now. The sage confronts difficulties, but never experiences them. This is the idea of thinking small. And finally, I'd like to see you change from this thought. Change from seeing yourself as separate to seeing yourself as connected to everyone and everything in the universe.
cannot change your life unless you go inside first, you figure out who you are, what your own wisdom is telling you to do, and you start to actually believe it and follow it.
You can't always look for other people to help you. Other people got their own problems. They got their own they got to deal with. They're trying to achieve their own goals. But after a while, it's on you. Your failure and your success is on you.
Once you believe that you can get good at something, that you can get great, that you can even become extraordinary through an inhuman amount of effort, then you'll take the steps. Why? Because you know your efforts will be rewarded with results. That is the most important thing for you to believe, that your energies are going to be rewarded, because then you'll move forward.
The choices that you make day to day have this profound and lasting effect on the structure of reality.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't give your power away. You don't need anybody to approve your dream. It was given to you. If they can't see it, it's because it wasn't given to them. It was given to you. Hold it, nourish it, cultivate it, work on it. It's yours, it's your baby. Work on it until it comes into fruition.
Learn all this stuff. You can digest all the tactics and information that I give out, but if you're not willing to do one more, eventually there's a part of you that says, maybe I don't deserve it. I'm just doing what everybody else is doing, and that's not good enough. It's not even good enough to do more than everybody else. It's your maxed out level. It's one more of everything.
So we have to find a way to construct a narrative about ourselves that empowers us, that lifts us up. Even though we make mistakes, even though we fall down, even though we're never going to get things right all the time, and even though terrible things happen to us, or maybe we do terrible things. But in that, the erosion of the self, that's the danger.
So I'm always going to do extra. And you accept the fact that all things break down over time. All the barriers will go away. All the obstacles will go away. Everything in your way will go away if you keep after it over an extended period of time.
As you go toward your goals and your dreams, spring forth with a mighty faith to write the book that ought to be written by you, to help the people that ought to be helped by you, to make the difference in our society that ought to be made by you.
Quitting guarantees the failure. Once you quit, it rules out any chance of succeeding. The mere waking up every day, putting the next foot in front of the next foot, at least keeps you in the game.
That no one's coming. It's up to you. You're not a kid anymore. I'm dead serious about this. Like so many of you are waiting to be picked. By who? Are you making the most of your life?
Get good enough to have the life that I want, my ideal life. But I'm going to get good enough. And from that, I plant a very unreasonable belief inside my soul, which is I can have any life I want. And now I just need to write out exactly what that is. I've handcrafted the life that I desire. And I know the realities of who I am and what needs to be true in order for me to move well through the world. Have tomorrow be wildly different than today.
Somebody said, the land of familiarity belongs to the dead. That most people like to feel like they're a king in the area of their comfort zone. They only want to do those things that they know how to do well. Osborne said, unless you attempt to do something beyond that which you've already mastered, you will never grow. So if you want to begin to grow, you've got to put something out here that you can't reach easily, that has got to make you stretch.
Everyone's going to hit adversity. It's how you deal with that adversity. And the key word is you, not letting somebody else deal with that adversity. Are you going to fight through it, or are you going to curl up and just roll over in the corner?
Here's what I'm here to remind you of today. You've got to stick around long enough for the candy to come out. You've got to wait for the candy to come out of that piñata called your life, called your business, called your body, called your relationships. The vast majority of people in life don't stick around for the candy because they think as they're hitting the piñata of their life, they don't think they're making progress. It doesn't feel like progress. But I'm telling you, the number one ability is availability. And if you keep swinging away every day, even though it doesn't feel like it, you are getting closer to the candy.
There's some things about life that defies logic. You've got to learn how to walk by faith and not by sight.